Game
Let's start. That's it? Yeah. Okay. Okay, this is going to be a short talk about a gem that, well, a couple of gems that our team made because, well, we needed this kind of functionality. And we called it Storext, so that kind of answers your question, I think. It's like active records. It's active record store and a layer on top. So for the ones who aren't familiar, active record store allows you to save. It's like I guess like NoSQL in a single column in your SQL database. So you can store JSON in there. You can store like if you use Postgres. There's something called HStore. It's just like a hash store. And you can add, by just adding to the list, you can add more access source. So color homepage, if you add more, you don't need to migrate it. You get them as attributes on your model. You can read and write, and it feels like, for the most part, normal active record columns or normal SQL columns. Turned off. Okay. The problem was that it's not typecasted, right? So if it saves it as strings as a string in the database, even if you set it as a float, you'll get it back as a string. And the problem with this is all over your code, you're going to have to F, to I, you'll be typecasting it yourself. So I didn't like seeing that because that's prone to a lot of errors. So we made the gem called Storext, where as long as you have the active record store, and by the way, you don't need this store data coder JSON if you're using Postgres. Like if you have HStore or a JSON store in your table, then Rails will take care of that automatically for you. And then you define the attributes a lot like Virtus. In case you're familiar with it, I have a price, it's a float. By default, it's 0.0. I have a start date, default, it's 30 days ago. And it typecasts it based on the type you specify above. Actually, it just uses Virtus underneath because we don't want to write all that code again. And Virtus is used in a lot of the apps we write already. And just to show you the default, like if you create a configuration record, the price is going to be 0.0. So it's like active record store and then a layer on top. That's Virtus that does the typecasting and the default setting. And there are other features that Virtus has, but I didn't show them here. This allowed us also to make the second gem called Storext Override, where you have like a master setting and then you have child settings where you can begin to override the parent. If you don't set it on the child, it'll take the parent's value. If you set something on the child, then it will keep that value. And because the parent model already used Storext, it was easy to say just basically clone the parent model so that you have all its attributes. So this is an example of how it's set up. This is the subconfig. I'll go back up. This is the parent config, similar to what you saw a while ago. This is the subconfig. You specify the parent and you say, yeah, just override the parent. And so if you create a parent, price of 20, you create a child, and the child belongs to that parent. When you call price on the child, it's 20. But if you set it here, like it's set to 30, it's 30. And there are a few other features where you can say, when you pass override price false, it will delete the value on the child. So in our forms, whenever the user no longer wants to have the child setting and they want to default back to the parent, they could just check or uncheck it rather. So do not override the price, and then it deletes all of those from the child. That's it. Short talk.
The model is similar to the class attribute feature that Rails often gives Ruby. I think it's one of the
Class
extensions.
attribute.
Class attributes?
Yeah.
Because they're inheritable, right?
Right. Yes.
And
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. It is similar, but this is you save it because
Yes.
that one's just
It's
in memory.
Ruby link,
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yes.
Is it compatible with all the operators? I mean, about the JSON, binary JSON and H stuff. You have some operators, for example, in PostgreSQL, so you can retrieve like select object, select table, select rows inside your table with some variable inside.
Yeah,
H
yeah.
stuff.
So you can do that with Postgres. This, so even if you just use plain active record store, with Postgres, if you have a JSON store or an H store,
Yeah, you can.
you can. That's what you're saying, right? You
But
can.
I mean, it's not moving anything about this.
No, nothing.
So
But
it's
you
still
can do the.
working.
You can still do that. That does not. These gems don't change anything there.
Okay.
Yeah. Just for the ones who aren't familiar, he was because before Postgres had these features, a lot of us just made a text column and then Rails would turn it into plain text and then back to Ruby objects when it loaded it. But you couldn't do anything special like give me the records where the data column includes this key and this value, right? Or you could, but you'd have to load it all in Ruby, and Ruby will do the find for you, which is expensive. So that's why I like Postgres. Yeah. Any other questions?
What is the difference between HStore? Like if I'm using HStore, I can add these attributes myself, right, in the fly. So how is this different though from HStore?
It still uses HStore underneath, but this one typecasts it for you. That's the main thing. Like if you save a date in HStore, I think you just get it back as a string.
Yeah.
You have to do to date or to time or
Okay.
yeah. And it describes also how your records in HStore should look like, or what it has in HStore, because the fields are defined in the model and what type they are. Yeah. Oh, that's it? All right. Thank you.